And shall I begin with a very joyful and a very jubilant hello to all my good trading friends out there. Doug here with Trade with Doug, and welcome to the very first edition of Stock Market Mutterings for the brand new year of 2021. Now, some of you are cruising by for the very first time. Number one, welcome. And number two, Stock Market Mutterings is where I'll do my best to take a grope in the murkiness. I will try to make some sense out of the stock market the best I can for you. And I'll share some trading ideas and setups. And I hope that what I share with you can translate to you making a little bit more money. As always, if you need help with your personal trading, somewhere on this screen will appear a link. Feel free to join me every day that the market is open. I am trading live, whether it's day trading, swing trading, momentum trading, position trading, or investing. It makes no difference. Trade with Doug can help you. Now, before I get started, I do want to say that I'm going to be scheduling here over the next week to 2 weeks the State of the Market webinar for 2021. Now, if you guys can remember, I did one last year, the State of the Market for 2020, and this was a really good webinar. I had a great turnout, but some of the things that I was talking about in that webinar, we kind of saw that during the course of the year. Obviously, like so many people, I wasn't thinking about coronavirus back then, but I did say we would probably see a significant correction, which we did. But a big piece of that webinar was really focused on how I've observed over the last few years a whole slew of stocks that go from $20 to $100 to $500. And we saw that. Now, some of them were aided by coronavirus, which we had like ZM, Docu, and Peloton. And we really managed to get ourselves positioned in both the part-time trader program and the day trading program as well. We managed to get ourselves positioned. So I want to talk about what we can expect going forward, because just real briefly, there's a lot of pressure now that will be going into the first quarter of 2021 with the stock market, as it is priced for perfection. We've been seeing this continual solid rally, and I think the market is pricing in that we're all going to be back to living somewhat of a normal life at the very big at early parts of summer at the latest. So that's something that we're going to have to really pay close attention to, because as lockdowns continue to increase worldwide, coronavirus cases increase worldwide, we have a new strain and this vaccine, there's going to be a lot of pressure there to perform, but we're going to go ahead and talk about that. Full details about the 2021 webinar, so I'll be posting that soon. Stay tuned. So let's go ahead and talk about what's our first move here for 2021 and where should we be going. There's no question that we're in an overbought market. And of course, it's not going to last forever, but far be it from me to be the one to say, this is the day. Timing is always everything in the stock market. Like we always say, idea, execution, and management. You can have a great idea or think about the idea of shorting something, but right now, according to all the kind of charts, according to the tempo of this market, it just isn't ready. Whenever the market is ready, it will tell us. It will rear its head and say, now is the time for us to sell. But as of now, that's not it. Now, it's hard to also gain what type of interest you have in the market throughout the last week. That's normally a week where funds position themselves or do tax loss selling, if there's any of that this year, or tax positioning. So it's hard to say that what we saw on the last day of the session is something that we're going to have to look at as we go further. But let's just go ahead and just go from right here at this point. The market's just bullish until it's not bullish. Now, at some point, we'll see a correction, but right now, it's not there. Maybe that shows up the very first week of 2021. I don't know. My crystal ball doesn't work either. It's sort of just a week by week, day by day type of process with my trading. Really strong move that you got late into the session there on Thursday. Yeah, that Thursday last trading session. So I guess that's good, right? It's like, how else could you finish the year? And think about this. If you survived 2020 as a trader, you traded the whole year. I got to give you the applause here, guys, because you had everything this year. You had bullishness to start the year. You had an absolute correction of a mass magnitude. You had a rally and bullishness, bearishness, sideways, chop, slop, and everything in between. So it was quite a dramatic year. I don't think we're going to see that type of 2021, but again, we'll see. So as it stands right now, the market's pretty straightforward. It's bullish. We're at all-time highs. The volume isn't as enthusiastic as it could be. There's probably still one more parabolic left in this market. But again, far be it for me to say when and if it's ready for a correction, but I would expect sometime in the first quarter of the 2021, we get something, 5%, 15%. I don't know. That remains to be seen, and there's a lot of things that we need to pay attention to. Now, as we look at names, the theme, it was really like last year as well, was a theme for story stocks, whatever the stories were, like the ZMs, like the Docus, like the Pelotons, like the EV space. these story stocks, regardless of their fundamentals, really got the attention. Now, that'll also be something that we're going to want to look at, that we'll talk about in the 2021 State of the Market webinar as well. Will story stocks still work as an investment, or are people really going to be looking more at fundamentals when fundamentals start to matter again? As I'm looking at this right here where we stand with the close, there's a couple of interesting things I'm looking at, and that is a few of these stocks. Let's go to the FANG names, the big players, the Facebooks, the Nvidia. The majority of these kind of got pushed to the wayside here from Thanksgiving on. Now, normally Thanksgiving on to Christmas is sort of like the wacko time where you start seeing the lower flow. And we saw that. We saw stocks like PLTR. We saw FUBO, F-U-B-O, this monster, FUB. These stocks just started ripping. I mean, look at the daily chart down here. Just went straight from 30 to 62. It's like 100% in a few days. We saw a ton of those. So when we look back at the market, one thing I was going to talk about was things like Nvidia, where, you know, they just kind of went dead here. I'm going to open up a daily chart. Sure, they're moving back and forth, but pretty much since November to December to the end of the year, you got nothing on this Nvidia. I mean, it's just straight sideways. And when you're looking back at this stock, the massive move that this thing made and how it's always performed well. I mean, I remember when this thing was like a $14 stock. Hasn't done anything. It's been a long time since I haven't seen Nvidia just become dead money. You also have that same type of setup here in Facebook, which it hasn't done very much over the last month or so either. So you haven't seen those type of stocks. I think you got a little bit out of Apple. You got a small run in this. Not much. I think Amazon might be the same thing. A lot of sideways, yes, a lot of sideways trading, excuse me, here in Amazon. So what am I saying here? Is the FANG names that really led the way early on the correction of the coronavirus. The Nvidias, the Facebooks, the Netflixes, the Amazons. They had this such massive rally, and then they just cooled off for the last 2 months. Now, one hand, you could say that these stocks certainly needed some sideways trading. They were overbought. I'm not going to say that they weren't. You can also say that it could be some form of sector rotation where they moved out of big tech and really went into the speculation. You know, the more money that's flown into the market, the more speculation. And that's just sort of where people are just buying like the next story. So anyway, what am I saying is I'm kind of looking here. I'm not saying this is going to be something that we need to pay attention to, but I'm kind of waiting for money to come back into that, especially Facebook, especially Nvidia, and especially AMD is another one here that's just sort of kind of setting up. I thought a couple of weeks ago we'd probably see a beeline to 100. I was obviously incorrect about that. Maybe we see 100, but my timing, I think, on that issue is definitely off. I got the 97, 98 there, and that was it. So one thing I'll be looking for here early on, especially the first week, is money going to come back into AMD, Nvidia, Facebook, Netflix? Now, they've had some rallies in between here, don't get me wrong, but they've really been unable to build consecutive day after day rallies. Some look better than the others. Like I said, Apple looked okay, but Netflix kind of looks a little bit better, but really over the last couple of months, actually for the whole summer, like if you bought in July and held Netflix up to now, you haven't made hardly anything. So let's watch those. Let's watch the big FANG names, the big beta names. Let's see if money comes pulling back into those, minus Tesla. It just seems to run no matter what, bull market, bear market, sideways market. It's like a Tesla market. So let's kind of watch these. I'd also would start to think that maybe some of these other names are kind of done. You had a bunch of stuff in the EV space like FSR. This FSR is probably done. FUV. I don't know if these things have any more. I mean, you always have, when you're talking about EVs, you have Tesla obviously leads the way. Maybe you could take a look at NIO, but again, it's tough to say with NIO. It's Chinese, and there's always that little element. But anyway, those to me are the two best ones. Everything else sort of falls in place. I think perhaps that's over. And that's kind of what I see here. Going through the year, though, another one here that I've been on significantly since last year. This was one of the, not the ones I featured in the 2020 webinar. But I talked about a handful of stocks going from single digits, double digits, all the way into the hundreds. And by far the best trade that I had was Peloton all year. Now that I'm looking at it, I think this thing still has 200 and it's got one more run to get vertical and parabolic. Maybe it's not now. Maybe it needs a couple of weeks. So as we approach this year, here's what I'm looking at. What trades are on the list? It really depends on how a couple of things open up Monday, but I think you've got some pretty good looks here, possibly, let's say a ZM for a reversal trade, whether it's 1 day or longer than that. You're now filling in this gap here to 328.40. I really want to watch this name. I've also mentioned that I would like to watch here the Facebooks, the Netflix, the Amazons, the FANG names, the AMDs. And I want to see if money's going to come back in here this week as it moves out of maybe some other speculation plays as bigger institutions get involved again. And one last one here is maybe this FUBO, which was a big trade as well. It's now pulled down into support. So I think if you hold this 26 level here, you get a test of 26. I'm going to put a alert right there for you. I think if you get a hold of this level, it could be good for a trade. Although this is a little bit more sketchy. It had a big blow off top. It sold the whole entire thing off. This is why you never chase, guys. But let's see if it holds there. So quick recap. I want to see, obviously, the FANG names. If some money comes back into those, you could see some really nice moves. I like ZM now that it's filled in the gap from a few months ago. Let me get you the exact time. Yes, from August. You've now filled in the gap. I'd be looking for some support to develop, and I'd also be looking for a nice little reversal. For everything else, you know, this FUBO is a speculation play there as well. And, of course, longer term, I like Peloton as well, but we'll talk more about that in the 2021 webinar. So let's kind of look for that. Again, congratulations if you survived the whole year as a trader. You had a little bit thrown at you along the way from start to finish. What will we get in 2021? It's hard for me to predict. I'm not in the predicting business. I'm in the preparation business. I let the market do what it wants to do, and then I go ahead and react. And we're just going to have to continue to do that. We'll probably get a correction at some point, somewhere around 15 to 20%, but the market always corrects. It always goes through that. And that's a sign of a healthy market, is having sectors correct, is having markets correct. So we'll see. Got a new administration change, got a vaccine. Will we be done with Corona? I mean, this year's got a lot of stuff that we need to be looking for. So stay tuned for the State of the Market 2021 webinar. I'll be sure to get out in the next week or so for you guys, and we'll get that set up as soon as we can. As always, if you need help, we had great results in both the day trading room, but more importantly, well over like 60, 70% gains here in the part-time traders. So the links are here, or they're down in the description box. If you need some help trading, make sure you get some help. Get you to the next level. So guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. This is the very first one. We're going to do many more of these in 2021. I look forward to what this year has to offer us. I look forward to the drama and the thrill and the excitement and another year as a trader. So if you need help, you know where to reach out to me. Otherwise, take care, guys. I will talk to you next week. Trade well.